So our friends to the north, very close to my north right now. I can get to Canada in like 20 minutes right now. I should go over there and do on the street interviews, but I'm afraid I'm going to get arrested. But we'll get to that with Carney. All right, Canada. Hey, man, things were not looking good for the Liberals. The Liberals were not good stewards of Canada, according to almost anyone's account, except very much like in America, rich boomers who got theirs, like the Liberal Party. But
Right.
no, nobody else really. Look at this economic growth 0.5%, just lagging behind everybody else under Trudeau's leadership over the last 10 years. House prices are a big thing there by some measures. It is the most overvalued housing market in the world. In the world. You see how hard it's become to buy a house in America? And that's just a little divergence on income and house prices. Look at Canada.
No, I looked up housing in Canada because, some of you know, I'm kind of shopping myself around. And so I just out of curiosity checked the Canada. I'm like, damn, this is worse than here. Way
It
worse
is.
than here.
Look at this. It's
Yeah.
it's vertical. It's vertical.
Yeah.
Straight line, and income pretty flat, very much like here. So hey man, this combination of factors, growing dissatisfaction, and after many, many, many years in office, Obama gal pal Justin Trudeau announced a shock resignation in January. And shortly after they announced this election. Now, coming out of Trump's victory, hey man, they were getting buried. They were going to get trounced. Look at this: 42 to 23, 40 to 26, 48 to 17. Absolutely, the Liberals were going to get buried.
Yep.
And
it's counterintuitive, sorry, but in Canada, the blue is the Conservatives, red is the Liberals. It's the opposite of here, so it makes it hard to follow the charts.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But the blue is the Conservatives.
All right, yeah, good point, Charles. So what happened? What happened? Well, this probably had something to do with swinging the electorate.
Remember, with Canada, we don't need their cars, we don't need their lumber, we don't need their energy, we don't need anything from Canada. And yet it costs us $200 billion a year in subsidy to keep Canada afloat. So when I say they should be a state, I mean that. I really mean that. Because we can't be expected to carry a country that is right next to us on our border. It would be a great state. It would be a cherished state. The taxes for Canadian citizens would go down in less than half. They don't spend money on military because they think we're going to protect them. There are many things that they do, like icebreakers. They want us to provide icebreakers for them. Oh, that's wonderful. So Canada, they're very tough traders too. I want to just tell you, all the people, they're tough traders. They trade very tough. And, the expression I use is some people don't have the card.
I was negotiating a Mountie, came and beat up my niece.
Yeah.
On the playground. They said next time it's going to be worse. You buy this maple syrup. So I had to look this up because when I first saw this, I thought it was a parody post. I had to go to his Truth Social to make sure this was real. This was the day of the election. Trump truths this out. Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and all other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes. If Canada becomes the cherished 21st state of the United States of America, no more artificially drawn line from many years ago. Look how he has no idea the history of North America. Look how beautiful this landmass would be. Free access with no border. All positives with no negatives. It was meant to be. America can no longer subsidize Canada with the hundreds of billions of dollars a year that we have been spending in the past. It makes no sense unless Canada is a state. Now, just briefly, Trump, we have often observed the idea that he was a good businessman and a bad politician. That's Keaton's formulation is actually reversed. He's actually a good politician and a bad businessman. Casinos are considered bankruptcy proof. He's bankrupted multiple casinos, but he's a good politician. So you have to assume that he knows that that is going to be counterproductive, as has most of his rhetoric towards Canada. Now, we did a B part of this segment getting into the question of whether this has all been an op and he actually wanted Carney. I have a hard time seeing how he didn't. Now, alternate theory, he's just an asshole and he figured he's going to lose anyway and he decided to go troll that way. The theory I would give the least credence to is that he's so arrogant that he still thinks he could push it through. I don't believe that. That doesn't jive with the good politician part, if you believe indeed that he's
Well, notice he didn't say Polyev by name. He didn't say vote for the Conservatives. He just gave a sort of general guidance.
Maybe he meant Carney.
Right? Yeah, who knows? Well, that's what I mean. Like, he didn't actually go out and say who to vote for.
Yeah. I mean, he clearly implied the Conservative. So, moving along. According to Matt McDermott, it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty obvious to anybody, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, that he single-handedly swung the Canadian election by 25 to 30 points to get a victory for the despised Liberal Party. The impact of an unpopular American president on a foreign election is stunning. We've never seen anything like the seismic political shift Trump triggered in Canada to deliver a stunning Liberal win. Trump's toxicity is rewriting global politics. So this is just a little bit of what Carney had to say in his victory speech.
See every day what the politics of slogans and anger and chaos are doing south of the border. They are dividing and they are weakening the Americans. And that is why, that is what, they are not united anymore. United in name only.
And a Duncan on
and now the Americans want our strength. They want our resources, our water, our land. They want our country.
I'd like some of your housing. Just your housing a little cheaper. Your housing is cheaper. I'd go grab some of your housing.
There's your answer. Because Canada is not America. Canada is not America. Thank God. America is a melting pot. Look around this room. We're all Canadians. We're all Canadians. We're all distinct. We're all Canadians. Canada is unresolved. It is true that President Trump has betrayed Canada. He's betrayed Canada. And he has ruptured the global economy. Our old relationship with the United States is over, unfortunately.
Wow.
Okay.
What a sight.
So some really remarkable results, not the least of which is Bruce Fanjoy, an unknown neophyte, opposed the conservative candidate for prime minister. You can't defeat Pierre. Watch me. Well, hey, man, pretty convincing victory, 50 to 46. Not only did Pierre, I want to say it my Warner Brothers perverted skunk way.
Yeah.
Pierre Poilievre.
Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, Pierre Poilievre lost by 4 points his own seat, much less to become the next prime minister. So BBC put together how they voted in charts. The Liberals have 168. Now they need 172 for the majority. Last I heard, it looked like they were going to fall a little short of that. So they're going to wind up having to work with one of the or all of the very weakened third parties. That's part of the story here. Actually, the Conservatives picked up seats from dissolution of parliament. They had 120. They're coming out of this with 144 because the NDP, the Quebec Party, and the Green Party completely collapsed. They actually, both the Liberal and Conservative Party, because of that, gained vote share.
Yep.
The Liberals gained 10.9, the Conservatives gained 7.7. As you can see, all at third parties' expense, particularly the NDP, 11.6 drop.
Well, yeah, the lefties rallied behind the libs because they thought it was an emergency. So that's what happened.
But they didn't necessarily. This is the thing.
Well, some of the seats went to the Conservatives. Yeah,
some
there was
of them,
some horseshoe.
The majority,
Yeah.
the majority of NDP flips went to Conservatives. Jagmeet Singh, who was the leader of NDP, also lost his seat with his fellow loser. So here's a kind of common take on it. It's not that the vast majority of Canada have been happy with how things have been the last 8 to 10 years. It's that they knew things would get worse, not better, with a conservative government, hence why the NDP have lost 20 seats. Welcome to strategic voting, which somebody responded, of the 17 seats the NDP lost, 13 went conservative. Very strategic. So the conventional wisdom that all the NDP voters voted Lib does not seem to really hold up in reality. And we'll get into the reason why a little later in the segment. So if you look at the overall vote share, Liberals got 43.5. Conservatives not that far behind, 41.4. The seat share, the way that translates, though, is a bigger gap. The Liberals will have 49 to the Conservatives 42, based on the estimate right now. The Bloc Québécois, apologies for my pronunciation in advance, seems like they're going to be the biggest factor in terms of third parties that they might have to form a coalition with if they fall short of 172, which, as I say, the latest reporting looks like they'll narrowly miss that. Now, a lot of consternation from some Canadians who really did not want to wake up to this. There's a new PM, a new. Do they call it a first lady up there? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know what they call it.
But they might not even have a name for it. So here's a little bit of the complications. It's not as simple as everyone got mad at Trump and the libs wanted a landslide. Like, yes, that did happen, but you can't just reverse the level of discontent there was with the Liberal Party in a few months. So there are signs of that if you dig into some of the results. So the election results have highlighted divisions in Canada that could pose a challenge for Carney. Notably, the Liberals are shut out of Alberta and Saskatchewan, oil-rich and gas-rich prairie provinces where a sense of alienation from the center of power in Ottawa has long festered. And if you look at the chart, yeah, I mean, Alberta, Saskatchewan, I think there's one Liberal seat there, 2 in Alberta. Very similar to our own politics. It's like the southern states of Canada, I suppose. Meanwhile, Poilievre's message, which relentlessly focused on cost of living issues, especially on housing affordability, resonated with many young people. Support for the Conservatives outpaced Liberals by 44% to 31.2 among 18 to 34-year-olds, a Nanos poll on 25th April indicated. The divide was more stark among younger men. You know, you say you're not the United States, but you sound a lot like the United States in many ways. Separately, Abacus data polling found that about 18% of 18 to 29-year-olds were worried about Trump. That jumped to 45% for voters over 60, suggesting a polarization on issues between generations. So it does seem like a lot of the kind of demographic differences that we've seen around Trump was going on around the conservatives up there, particularly Poilievre emphasized the impossibility for young people of getting housing, stagnant wages, whereas the liberals cannot credibly run on that because they presided over that economic destruction across the last couple of decades. When you combine that with the fact that Carney is literally a deep state central banker type, was in charge of the central bank in Canada and also in charge of the central bank in England during Brexit. So you couldn't find a better World Economic Forum proxy than Carney. So yeah, man. I mean, it was real. It looks like it was really the boomers that tipped it. But the reason that the conservatives were going to win is that the liberals have been so bad that even enough of the boomers peeled away to give the liberals a wide lead as of November. But Trump, with his rhetoric, his antics, and his behavior, we're going to get into this in the B part of this segment. It's hard to imagine that not being the intention. Carney becoming the prime minister. Like, how could you possibly think that you're not going to hurt the conservative candidate by talking about making their autonomous nation a state?
Yeah, I mean, Trump revived. I don't know if it. I mean, I shouldn't say revived. I don't know that it ever existed. I'm not a Canadian historian, but I've never seen the Canadians so into Canada as I have these past few months. And what Carney, World Economic Forum stooge or not, he ran an anti-American campaign. I mean, we just saw him in his speech say, "Hey, our relationship is not the same anymore. That those days are over." He said that on the campaign trail too. That appeals to people when you have a president of the United States get elected and out of nowhere comes in so incredibly hostile to your state, saying he wants to annex it, saying he wants to tariff it. Of course. I mean, it's an obvious result, and it's not a dominant victory for the liberals, but it's dominant compared to what it looked like. They were set to lose this by 20 points. And
right.
And the fact
20
that
to 30.
Yeah. And the fact that you had this reversal in this short a period of time just shows that Trump created what in their mind constituted an emergency situation where the status quo beats whatever we have going down. We have going on down here. The United States is like the kid who steps in a pile of shit on the playground. And all the other kids say, "Oh, there's a pile of shit over there. We better stay away from there." That's us. We stepped in the pile of shit, and now the rest of the world is saying, what's going on over there? We better not let that happen here. And they're doing what they can to avoid it, even if it means doubling down on a very unpopular status quo. Sometimes politics is complicated. Sometimes politics is simple. In this case, the lesson of this is quite simple. You can't be this horrible. You just can't be this bad.
Right.
When you're this bad, you make people not want to take a chance on you. Now, we spent the, first few years of our show here talking about how bad Joe Biden was. And Joe Biden was really terrible enough to the point where the country did take a chance on Trump. But now you see Trump in 100 days drove his approval rating down to where Biden left off. You know what I mean? In 100 days. Not in 4 years. In 100 days. And so you just can't be this horrible. Like, people want to cope. I saw a lot of cope on X about, I advised Viva Frey was that, I advise, because he's Canadian, I advised the Poilievre campaign to engage more with new media and to tap more into the young men the way Trump did. And, they ignored my advice and now you reap what you sow. Okay, listen, man, that to me is cope. What happened here is he was in a position to win in a landslide. Donald Trump came along and proved how toxic that brand of politics is, and enough people wanted nothing to do with it to the point where they put the liberals back in charge. Justin Trudeau was crawling out of there with his tail between his legs. They were in shambles. They were in shambles. They were gone. They were a non-factor. And now here they are.
They put him in a bunker. You haven't seen this guy.
No, you haven't seen him. He was the liberal darling 10 years ago as a global celebrity. He leaves with his tail between his legs. They're on track for a crushing defeat no matter when they called the election. They could have called it September of 2026. On the trajectory that things were on, the conservatives were poised not just to win, but to clean up. No, not now. And the idea of Canada becoming a state just gets funnier and funnier. First of all, I love how Trump continuously refers to the border between Canada and the U.S. as an artificial line. We need to militarize the southern border. That's got to be a steel trap. But the northern border, that's an artificial line. Second, Canada has a population of 40 million people, which is about the population of the state of California, which is by far the largest state by population in the United States. California has 54 electoral college votes, 52 representatives in Congress. So if you made Canada a state, given the results of this election, what you're likely doing is giving the Democrats permanent power in the House and probably in the presidency, because you're adding 54 electoral votes to almost certainly the Democrat column. It'd be very hard for Republicans to win an election.
We're way ahead of you.
Yeah.
It'll be like, what do they call it? We're going to annex them.
We're going to annex them. It'll be like Puerto Rico. It'll be like Puerto Rico. They don't get to vote.
It'll be like Puerto Rico, only no vote. No vote at all.
Yeah, no votes at all. For
it'll be more like the West Bank, really.
Yeah, right, exactly. It'll be like Judea and Samaria. They'll live like Palestinians in the West Bank. Yeah. So I mean, completely just absurd and thoughtless. Which that's the most benign interpretation, and of course, the suspicions are that this was planned in advance, which I guess we will get to in the next piece.
Please clap.